Right, let's give this a go. So you've heard about the deadly animals, scorching sun, impossible isolation. What was the other one? And sausage and bread, and you're still thinking that you want to come to the land down under, then prepare yourself for these weird Australian culture shocks. G'day guys, my name's Ross, and I moved with my family to Australia during a global pandemic. Now I love living in Australia, but when we first moved over here, it was a little bit weird. Now to stop things being so weird for you when you make the move, these are our top 8 culture shocks when moving to Australia. Australians love their sport, but unless you're from Australia, sometimes the sport is a little bit strange. For example, football isn't football. And I'm not really talking about soccer, or am I? It really freaks me out to say the word soccer. For me, I know what football is. And for Australians, they also know what football is. But when you move to Australia, just resign yourself to the fact that you're now probably going to follow the minority sport. And also need a special subscription just to be able to watch it. Football in Australia can mean many things. Football for me means soccer, but football in Queensland means rugby league. And if you come from one of the southern states like Victoria or South Australia, then football can mean AFL. And I still don't understand how that game works, but I want to learn. You can still have a beer at an AFL game, right? But if you come from the UK like me, and you still want to watch your beloved football, then you're going to have to become a social hermit, bound to the wee hours of the night, just to watch your darling Premier League. If you don't like it, then take up one of the other many forms of football. And if you're American, well, they also kind of play baseball and stuff too, but probably not your form of football. It'd be like too hot in all the pads and stuff. Or imagine getting a spider in your helmet. Ooh. The second shock that we had coming from the antisocial rest of the world is the fact that in Australia, people are actually friendly to you. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, people are friendly in other parts of the world, but Australians are kind of like this weird level of friendly. People greet you on the street. Neighbours come up to your house and welcome you to the neighbourhood. People actually offer you help. Now for me, being the antisocial hermit that I am watching my Premier League, people being friendly to me was a little bit weird and it just took a little bit of getting used to. But when it happens to you in Australia, it really does make you realise how nice the world can be. Now hey, you're going to think to yourself, people around the world are nice, and lots of them are. And you normally notice it when you're on holiday. Maybe it's the weather that makes people happier. Because I can tell you that the dreary darkness of winter kind of makes people the opposite. To be honest, this is one of the best culture shocks of Australia. Calling all social recluses out there. If you move to Australia, it's going to make you a better person. No one wants your social awkwardness or unfriendly banter. Australians are genuinely friendly, unless they don't like you. But there's no beating around the bush. I'll tell you straight. Now coming from the northern hemisphere on the other side of the world, having a cold Christmas becomes a rite of passage. But here, cold Christmases? Welcome to the heat, my friend. Christmas in summer. It's hot. Really hot. If you don't have aircon, you're gonna struggle. It's not dark. You and your family aren't just confined to one room watching each other open presents you probably didn't even want. Wishing that the TV was on so that you wouldn't have to make awkward conversation with family members who you hardly ever see apart from the festive time. Wondering to yourself, is it too early to start drinking yet? The fact is that with Christmas in Australia, you get to take all of the good bits of Christmas, like presents and spending time with family that you actually want to spend time with, and then add all the good things of summer, like going to the beach, spending time in the pool, having a barbecue in the sunshine. Don't hang on to your old traditions of Christmas, like your roast turkey with all of the trimmings. I mean, do hang on to them, but don't whinge that you're doing it in the heat. Have a barbecue instead. Savour the wonder that is a potato bake. Why did we not have these in England? Or if we did, I never had one. They're gorgeous. Make new traditions and embrace the fact that Christmas in summer is now your new life. Now, coming from cosmopolitan Europe, I was kind of used to this next one because people on the continent sometimes like to have a siesta. But at least they opened up the shops and stuff again. Now, I know that this can catch out the average Brit visiting Marbella for the first time and wondering why in the middle of the day all the shops are shut. But in Australia, it goes to another extreme and shops just shut early. Want to get a coffee after 4 PM? Yeah, nah. Don't be crazy. Why would you need that much caffeine in your system at night? It's going to go dark in a couple of hours. Want a takeaway after 9 PM on a Friday? Well, you better live in the city centre. Ain't no one going to work after 9 PM in the burbs. You crazy? Unless you're in the major cities, things in Australia are rarely 24 hours. People have a life. They don't want to sit there waiting in a restaurant or a shop for your convenience. Don't be so selfish. Why aren't things so convenient? Well, it turns out people don't actually want to work all the time, and you need to respect that. Get a bit more organised. Enjoy a night in. realise that that thing you think you need, you probably don't need right now. I'm sorry that the shop's shut early, but if you don't have that thing you want right now, is the world going to end? Probably not. And if it was that important, you wouldn't have forgotten it, right? And this culture shock extends into the next one, and it's the work culture. And weirdly enough, most Australians don't like to work. I mean, they do. They do like to work. That's a massively sweeping statement. But fortunately for people who live here, we don't live to work. Working to live is an incredibly emancipating feeling. What's the point in going to work all day to earn money to then not have the time to spend it? I don't want to live a life like that, do you? Especially when you have all of this fantastic weather and beautiful scenery to spend it in. Except when it's a La Nina year. Like, the scenery's still there, but the weather's still a bit crap, and it has been for the last 2 years. Fortunately for most Australians, this laissez-faire attitude to work extends to lots of different industries. If you're sick of the daily grind in your job, then come to Australia and you can do the same thing but not work as hard. Wouldn't we all want to just do that? But sometimes this incredibly laid-back nature can lend itself to some slightly weird / potentially unsafe habits. Barefoot in public? That one takes a little bit of getting used to. Especially living up here in the sunshine state of Queensland, seeing people go barefoot in your local Coles can be pretty much a daily occurrence. Lots of people do it, especially children. It's like they've got an allergy to shoes or thongs. Just put some thongs on, mate. Protect yourself. Now, for us foreigners who are used to wearing shoes anyway just to keep our toes warm, seeing people go barefoot in public and it's not the beach or a swimming pool can be a little bit weird. But actually, rather than criticising or wondering if they've got asbestos in the soles of their feet, don't criticise. Join them. Everyone talks about that feeling where you can spread your toes in the sand and how liberating it can be. Well, just go barefoot in public, mate. You get that feeling all the time. Except when it's the middle of summer and you step on that black tarmac. Maybe put your thongs on then. Now, if you thought going barefoot in public was rather informal or slightly offensive, then wait until the average Australian speaks to you. Don't get me wrong, most of them are educated, eloquent individuals. But the average Aussie does love a swear. They even do it on the radio. The first time I heard shit on the radio in the morning, I was wondering if my driving was okay or if someone was shouting at me in traffic. No, it was the person on the radio. I've even heard them drop the odd wanker, which can be wholly confusing to some of the people watching this that don't even know what a wanker is. They can say wanker on the radio, yet I'm cursey enough to bleep wanker on my videos. What a beautiful country we live in. Now don't get me wrong, they don't go for the hardcore stuff like fuck or bugger. Wait, bugger isn't really that bad, is it? Oh, I've buggered this up. But most Australians will drop the Cbomb at you as a term of endearment. How's it going? I know that for lots of people when they watch Game of Thrones, dropping the Cbomb was a big taboo. And if you don't like that word, sorry, Australia might not be for you. Because in Australia, lots of people like to swear and everyone's so you better get used to it. I don't think I've ever used that many bleeps in a video before. I really hope I bleeped all of those out. Now the last one is something that's awesome, but also one of my little pet peeves. In Australia, they have some of the best containers for sauce in those little foldy things that just squeeze out perfectly. What an invention! But in Australia, if you want the privilege of sauce, you have to pay for it. Want some tomato sauce, mate? Yeah, that could be 15 cents, please. Or 30 cents if you want two, because they're like really small packets. Now don't get me wrong, not everywhere does charge for sauce. Thank the Lord. But lots of places do, and it's pretty common practice. If you're like my wife that just loves to slather everything in tomato ketchup, then not only calling it ketchup is going to be weird in Australia, because it's tomato sauce, as I've been told many times when I get that confusing look asking for ketchup. But like going to America and having to pay for something and then add on the sales tax, if you want sauce, you're going to have to pay a little bit more. But the good thing is we don't have to tip, because everyone gets a fair wage. And Medicare. And gun laws. What a beautiful country Australia is. Now if you're thinking of moving to Australia and you don't want to live in Melbourne or Sydney, and you think that like us, Brisbane could be the place for you, then watch this video to wonder if Brisbane is really worth going to. See you later.